which was started 2,500 years back. Uh, so the interesting combination of contemporary and classical. Uh, Two dancers, both are Padma Shri, both are very well-known dancers and choreographers. They are classical dancers, but having a strong contemporary sensibilities. They use their dance forms, their dance language to communicate the most modern, the most contemporary crisis of our time. Ileana had a very strong uh, knack, a strong fascination for philosophical, existential questions of life. And Aruna Appa tried to capture subtle political, social, environmental issues. And it's very interesting to talk to both of them. It will few personal questions and few questions which are related to the time. So first question to Arunapa. Nowadays, you are seen working with bigger scale, working with Bollywood choreographers, working with other dance forms like Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kuchipudi. And how do you deal with this uh, sometimes contradictory art forms, sometimes uh, very different art forms, and bringing them together? Suppose two, I can recently you did a choreography for World Cup hockey, where you worked with Bollywood stars, and before that you had a choreography which included all the art forms, all dance forms, major dance forms of India. So, how was the experience? How, and what is the idea behind all this?
Namaskar. The question is simple, but the answer is not so simple. Because I am still reeling under the influence of the last previous discussion about the Bollywood and the regional films and all that. It will take some time to come out of it. Um, when we are talking about the mega event, I do not plan mega event. The situation offers or challenges me to design these mega events. Like for example, Make in Odisha happened in November. When it was given to me, I practically, even last time also when they asked me to do it, I asked why me, because my limitation with the grammar of the classical medium is not actually suitable for mega events like this, where you are not restricted to only the Odissi classical dance format. Here you have to bring in contemporary, modern, folk forms and martial art forms and all that. The answer was very simple, one line: because we want a choreographer made in Odisha. So that is how I was roped into Make in Odisha. But once I take up the challenge to do something like that, and looking at the stage, we don't decide the number first, we look at the space given to us, and the stage was 100 feet by 70 feet. So there you just cannot have 5 dancers, 6 dancers, 8 dancers like that. So you have to keep that in mind when you are developing the script. And for me, as a choreographer, the developing the script and concept is the most difficult thing, because it has to justify the event, the cause, and what we are trying to say the world about Odisha. That what is in Odisha? Yet it should not look and sound like as if we were doing a propaganda thing for the administration. So that was the big challenge. But working with a big group of dancers coming from Delhi, Bangalore, and Koraput and Odisha and things like that, then you have to know the grammar and the sensibilities of the each form. so that you can integrate it, merge it, and can make it a confluence of different thoughts and flow of the form. Suppose I did something when we were dealing with the education. So when we are talking about education, to me, it relates to the Veda Vedanta Samaya, where how the education was imparted. Then came where the Odia language, and when the state was formed on the basis of the uh, language, so how it was developed, like Varna Bodha, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, how it was kind of taught. And then came the age where we are talking through computer and digitalized medium. So when we are doing this, I was kind of trying to read and trying to internalize the sensibilities of each dance form, how they are coming and merging with different forms. And when we are talking about the mines and the mineral resources, I thought if you do not talk about the life and the emotions of the people where the mining resources are there, we won't be able to justify. So similarly, few things when we did talk about the women empowerment. So I used actually 60 dancers, women, but I referred it to Fakir Mohan Senapati, the Rebati story, where he's talking about the girls' education, how the girls were deprived of education and what happened to them, and how the horizon was kind of extended and how they came forward to part of the main, workforce team. So to do that, I used an aerial show because I wanted to show the Sakti, the woman as a Sakti, the woman herself, not a Devi or Durga and things like that. So I got her from top where all other people are looking up at her. But there I use a prop, which is a kind of a, dupatta, because the word says ood uudutu, Dariya Mapaja. So the entire world is your field, just fly. The wings of freedom. So, actually we get the strength from the script, the words, and the literature which we are banking upon, and then we decide that how to use different mediums. We use the huge medium of kind of video, like the what you will say,
Audiovisual.
audiovisual medium. So that you have to be very careful, otherwise that can overpower, because the screen is almost 100 feet, so that can overpower the dance and the dancers. So that is
I have a counter question here actually. Counter question is that, when you are talking about the mega choreography and bringing all those technical
elements.
audiovisual elements into your choreography, one complaint is always there that the classical nuances, uh, the classical subtle nuances are missing, and you are not justifying your dance form, which is known for its lasyang. In a mega show, you completely missed those elements. How you are going to respond to that?
Uh, very recently, I did two productions. One is for Make in Odisha, and one is for World Cup hockey. See, Make in Odisha is not a completely Odissi production. I did two productions for Make in Odisha, one for opening ceremony, one for valedictory ceremony. And the opening ceremony was kind of had 9 components about education, disaster management, mining, skill, sports, and everything in it. But in World Cup hockey, the inauguration is Jagannatha Stakam. It is an invocatory item in Odissi. So if you look at both, you will see that in both productions, audio visuals have been used. But in Jagannatha Stakam, it's very minimal. It is absolutely uh, what, you create a background with it, not kind of a distraction or kind of, taking away the beauty of Odissi from it. And I sat with a creative team. I said, "Ki, what I want?" They said, "Ki, we have to have Lord Jagannath." I said, "Once only." Because that once will give a kind of, it's like, "Ki, the entire world is watching, so we have to." I said, "Yes, just once." And then bring in things like, the temple, but it's a very sketch, not the exact temple is moving around you, not like that, not the sculptures, heavy sculptures at the background. So, but in Make in Odisha, the visuals are like characters. So they were actually leading the dance, kind of going with the dance and converges with the dance. It was kind of telling the story. So this very meticulously we sit with the creative team to decide where we are trying to project Odissi. Like in Make in Odisha, we were talking about Bhubaneswar as the Saiva Pita, is the temple city. There the Odissi was in its full essence. But if I am talking about the skill, there I am not using Odissi as a medium. I have used different dance forms to talk about the different skills we are proud of, or Odisha is kind of a mark, making a mark in the
Okay,
global film.
it's a kind of making a mosaic. Now coming to Ileana. So, Aruna Appa is doing uh, a lot of exploration, experimentation, and you are no less. You have your background coming up with the strong ballet dancing. Then Western. You learned Odissi. You learned Chow. You know a little bit of martial practice, and you combine all those art forms into your choreography. So, can you just talk a little bit about this amalgamation, this mosaic, how you create a Odissi choreography, bringing together all these elements? Is it a challenge or is it a little bit easier because you know all these art forms?
Namaskar. I'm not very, I don't agree with the fact that I put all these things together. In fact, the fact that I've learned Odissi and Chao, which are the two styles which I really learned. And I had a guru who always was very attentive that the Odissi form would not be polluted by the Chao one. So I always kept them very separately. And in my choreographies also. I prefer to extend each style instead of make a fusion. So I started to do creative items, creative choreographies in Chao first before the Odissi. My Eco and Narcissus became almost a classic, and it was based on a Greek myth. It was a solo. So there it was the Chao grammar, which was extended in the possibility of the Chao grammar, which was extended. It was used with the computerized music, and it was a theme which was from the Greek mythology. So there it was my, after that I did the journey, which was with the haiku, with the haiku recited by Osho. So the Chao dance first gave me the possibility to experiment in this way by extending the possibility of the style. So the Odissi, I kept them separately. Odissi, my sensibility, my upbringing is, as I say, you said rightly, it is in philosophical. So I come from philosophy, and ballet and all these things. It was just part of my very brief childhood, initial, only for 3 years, like they do here, and then they stop after when the studies become a little more. So,
but Ileana, do you believe that Odissi is so watertightly compartmentalized that you cannot bring in other steps or other forms to create a new grammar or to extend the grammar? You can say that, even Guruji was doing that.
Yeah, no, you extend from the source. I mean, I'm not interested purposely of taking a step from the Chao and put it in the Odissi. But when I create from the Odissi and the concept which I have demands certain extension, then I go I go accordingly. I don't stop myself because I
can see that, because I always say that Maya Darpana is my favorite, and I'm still enamored in that choreography. And you had so many elements in that choreography, which was really very inclusive and very charging, actually.
Yeah, for which I also was criticized a lot when I did it. But for example, I used a lot of floor movements, but because they were necessary, because I wanted to show that the nature, how it evolves from the rocks, from the rolling of the rocks, from the wind, from the sand, before the forms of trees and flowers and nature takes place. So I needed the rolling on the floor. So that was because the concept was there, and it was justified by the purpose and the meaning for which I used those movements. But what I'm going to say is that I'm not interested in say, okay, I have to depict this evolution of nature, so I take one step from Chao. No, from the concept, from the music, from the whatever I have in mind, it comes out from the form which I'm dealing with. So if some of this goes into a movement which may resemble the Chao, is okay. But from my process, is never that, okay, let me take one step of Kathakali, one step of Chao and put it like this. That type of fusion, I'm not interested. I'm more interested in the growth itself of the grammar which I have, and the expansion of that grammar. So, and the concept, as you were saying, we start from a concept, and for me also it is very essential. So I've done some choreography on refugee. I've done a choreography on Mother Teresa. So why?
And also on Mahanadi,
Mahanadi, yes. So why those were topic like refugee? I was seeing these photos continued on the newspaper of people who are walking and crossing a barrier and borders and overlapping in the flow on the sea, and boat which were capsized. So all this was in my mind, and I responded with a choreography. So again, it was not an easy subject to deal. But then after this, I talked with the poet. Here is where the poets, the script writer comes in the picture, and we all have a favorite poet, so whose contribute is, I work. I've not worked with you as yet, but I work with them.
You work with a more difficult person, Devdas Chotra, because Devdas Chotra is known for his contemporary and modern sensibilities. Yeah. At least I can accommodate a little bit of classical demand. I know, because when I work with Aruna, at least I know what is our demand, and I'm very comfortable to go to any classical zone. But Devdas Chotra is he is very a little bit hazy, and he said that I'm very uncomfortable to write a poem with old words, or so-called old and archaic words. Though I believe that no word is archaic, so that's more difficult.
What I like in him is very. It's like a haikus, the poems. So are very suggestive and with less words. So it gives space to the dance to fill it up. So that is where the poetry is so essential for dance, because it doesn't overpower you. So if there are too many words, it's vinculating. You can't create much out of it because it's already there too much. So I go to him, and then, as you say, it's not an easy person. Maybe I have to wait for 6 months, and then I always almost lose all the hope that anything will come out, and suddenly one night he calls me and says, "Done it." So and it is always perfect. So this is, we work in the Oriya alphabet, on so very diversified subject, and this is what the challenge. I like to challenge myself, and I like to now, for example, for the next choreography, I am still searching for an idea, and it has to be always very different and very unusual, which doesn't have already a text ready. So everything has to be create. So going back to your original question, see, this is what I do. I prefer to expand, to explore the possibility of an expansion from the style.
Okay. Because the lunch time is closing, it's very tough to continue. But one more questions to both of you. Since Sekharji is here and he's one top graded environmentalist of our time, and Aruna, you have come out with many choreographies which deal with nature, and you also uh, you also talk about the challenges the nature faced, starting from your this prakriti and pralaya after super cyclone. From there to today, there are many subjects that you have taken up on climate change, on natural disasters, and I believe that you have a strong fascination for nature, because your choreographic presentation, they all, and as a co-conspirator in all your efforts, when I started writing for you, you always look for poetry, for poems which are really based on nature. You must be remembered the first of our uh, joint venture was Mati, a poem of Radha Mohan Gadnaik. It talks about the earth, protection of the planet. So why and how this?
Before I answer this question very quickly, I would like to draw the attention to what Ileana said. What is fusion? What is a confluence? See, we had organized a national seminar on the evolution of the classical medium, which is Odissi. Then Guru Kalcharan Mahapatra and all the doyens and maestros were there. And we are trying to dig what are the allied forms of the soil which has enriched Odissi with its different elements, whether language, literature, music, percussions, and themes, and mannerism, and all that. When we analyzed that, we saw that all the folk forms of Odisha and all the martial art forms of Odisha have contributed in terms of grammar and vocabulary to enrich Odisha to what it is today. And it is kind of interdependent and inter communication, conversation. It has never stand in isolation. And when we choreograph Odissi, and we go with the themes, we go with the character, be it based on nature, be it based on Mahabharata or any Purana themes and stories and mythology and things like that, it always demands a certain way of expressing it. Then you decide what, if you're talking about Ravana, you say, I'm Ravana, and you lift the leg to show that I am mightier than. Then in that case, you are not thinking in terms of Chau, you are not thinking in terms of Sambalpuri, you are not thinking in Sankirtan, you are not thinking in Prahlada Nataka. You are going with the character. And when you are doing the character, since we have grammar, we have karanas and bhangis and things, so it is not right or proper to say that it is Odissi. When you talk about, it's only Lasya, that I am a woman and I'm all soft and lyrical and kind of moving like a leaf in the wind. So it's not about that. There is a Lasya bhava when you are aggressive. It depends on the character, how you are portraying it. That's about referring to that. And now coming to what Kedar asked me, that why we talk about nature and why I am drawn towards the nature and the environment, or whatever you call it, because I am a human being. I live in this society. I live in this world. I suffer the way other people suffer. I read. I share the sympathy, empathy with other people and their happiness and unhappiness. it troubles me and it affects me. I am sharing the same air, water, and the life. So obviously, each one of us, not me, each one of us, but I have people like Kedar Mishra. I have a think tank where I draw my inspiration from. They can make me see things in a different way, and that helps me to develop it with the dance vocabulary. I will just tell you one example because the time is short. I don't want to go detail into it. I had seen a short film by what's that? Who got the Grammy now? Indian
Don't
Ricky,
recommend, no, recommend it.
not film. The musician who got Grammy from India. What's his name?
I'm also forgetting. Okay, whoever.
Yeah,
Suppose A.
Ricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was invited by Chief Minister and we are kind of listening to his talk and he showed a small film about the protection, how you should protect elephants and what is happening to elephants and their suffering and all that. So after watching it, the impact was too strong, too strong. So I was thinking, then he said that this film, I said, where is your contribution as a music composer? The film is very strong. Film is a medium itself. It speaks its own language. He said, my music is driven by this, the entire storyline which I wanted to depict. So music is playing one simple element there, but music is not everything. But after seeing the movie, when I heard the music without the movie also, I really get the essence of the music. It is so powerful. But I agree with him. Now this is not the time of standing alone. If we have different mediums, we have to put it together to create that impact. And that small impact has driven me to do a choreography where I want to talk about the equation of the human with the animals. And I'm doing it for the school children. So obviously we draw inspiration from people like you, looking at you, talking to you, in conversation with you. I might not have seen something, but when I'm talking to you, I'm reading a book, I'm getting a picture. When that picture is in my mind, I'm visualizing it frame by frame, I'm really making a film inside my mind. And when I try to do it, manifest it through the grammar of my classical medium, it is a challenge because our classical medium has its own limitation also in terms of space, in terms of music, in terms of creativity, in terms of sculpturous, so-called sculpturous poses, which we are now kind of trying to expand the boundary. Sculpturous poses is not Trivanga and Chauka and holding the Darpana and Alasa or something like that. Just standing straight also is a pose and it can speak a volume. So like that, we are trying to, I did something after the super cyclone. So it started with that what is happening in the life of a girl child and looking at the rains and enjoying with it. And then slowly it takes a different form and flood and wind and cyclone and devastation and all that. And she's asking that why nature you are so cruel? But the nature says that I have my own way of. That's the kind of the when nature speaks, it is like coming from within that realization that we have to take care of it. And it is a cycle. Creation, devastation is a kind of a cycle. But what role we play to save it, save the planet.
Yeah, it's the man itself is a composition of the nature. Because now the mano, buddhi, ahankara. It's all the formation of. It's a part of that nature. So now coming to the last question to Ileana. Ileana, you have worked with so many masters, starting from Kalua, who was a master, of course. You worked with great minds like Hussein Saab. How was your experience as a film choreographer and working with people like Hussein, Manikaul, and others?
Well, no, Manika. Well, I work with many master, and it started before also because I was doing theater. So I had with Eugenio Barba a little bit, Grotowski. So those are all big masters. Yeah.
Barba, yes.
And that was
Sometimes I always, I have a fascination to talk about Barba on full session actually.
yeah, sure. Eugenio Barba, yeah. So when I came to India, I found the guru, Guru Krucharan Mohapatra. I was lucky to that I didn't have to search for another one because he was the right one immediately. And then I had the Guru Sri Harinaik for Chow dance, and that also for their own respective field, they were the best.
The most maverick guru to
Both
work
of them,
with.
both of them, and yeah, both of them very different. But I mean, I was lucky. Well, not always easy to to deal with the guru, especially with Guru Krucharan Mohapatra. It was a tough guru, and he crushed my ego totally. Otherwise, and when I came, I was not a child. I was already a doctor in philosophy, and I had to start all over again, learn how to walk, to talk, and to become a child again. So it's not easy at that age. But yes, I'm happy that I found him and changed my life. And so then you mentioned about Hussein, and so that is again another relationship you can't naturally compare with. Those are people whom I interact for film choreographies. So Hussein, for example, was like a child. Is whatever I mean, he didn't know what I would do with his film, but after he saw the first portion of the choreography, it was in Meenakshi, A Tale of Three Cities, the second film that M.F. Hussein film did. And so after he saw, he was just observing, like enjoying the film making and all these things. So when he saw the first choreography, Tabu was there, and there was a sort of lot of dancer there, and then he came and one on the shoulder and said, very good, very good. So that was his reward. So yeah, he's choreography for film is again another subject that one can talk about, another session altogether. It was very different, like Aparna Sen was the first director with whom I worked, and she also didn't interfere with the choreography, but I was working with people, with dancers who, with actress who was not a dancer. So there was a lot of extra work that the choreographer has to put. And so I had to compose on myself, they had recorded on myself, then this was, again, a workshop was to be done and all these things. And so it is then at the end, when I saw the film, I saw that my choreography had almost disappeared because the storytelling, the storytelling, it was more important. And so whatever I worked so much, and it was just shown beyond a window while the main protagonist is talking over the phone. And so I was searching I got the national award for the best choreography for another portion, not for that. But it was very disappointing. Whereas for Hussein, in the Hussein case, I immediately told them that I was very happy. The editor enhanced my choreography. It was of course, Santosh Sivan as a cinematographer was not the, but Rahman as the music composer. But the editor, after the editing portion, the choreography has become. I mean, I was very happy, and that was
that's the advantage of technology, actually.
Technology, also people who are involved, and because unfortunately, we as a choreographer, we are not called during the editing process. So maybe some of the biggest one, yes, but
No,
I was not called.
I would just add 2 lines because you asked about a Pritham. In the World Cup hockey, I was asked to choreograph a song of Pritham. Mere Dolina from Bhool Bhulaiya. So I asked Pritham, why me? You know, you can have a Bollywood, like Simak was there. So I worked with Simak in last World Cup hockey also. So I said, Simak is there, Simak will do it. He said, nahi, Aruna ji, ye classical music of best song hai. And in the film, Odissi, Vidya Balan was a Odissi dancer. So since we are doing it in Odisha, we want you to do it. I said, who is going to dance with our dancer? He said, Disha Patani, and I'll ask Ranbir to dance. I said, okay. So I said, I'm sending you a clipping. You make Disha Patani and Ranbir to dance that. And then when they'll come to Bhubaneswar, our group, and they will dance together. So I had sent it to them. But then it was not Disha and Ranbir, they were out of it. They said, nahi ma'am, aapke dancers ko lekar aap, you do it. I said, okay. So then he came, and when he saw that, he was not supposed to be there on the stage. So he saw that, he said, oh, I have to be there on stage. So he pulled a chair and sat there in the center. And both the singers who were singing that song, they were standing at both the sides. And we did the rehearsal. I saw each cut. Because we had 3 days rehearsal, we saw each cut. And I sat in the editing. I said, yeah, this is very important. It has to be there. You focus on this and that, all that happened. But on the final day, when I saw the recording, hardly my dancers were seen. The camera was focusing on Pritham and both the singers. And they were like chorus dancers. So I was so disappointed. But we did a cinema called Gratitude with lot very senior musicians and dancers and all that. There, since I learned from this, I said, I have to be there in the editing table. Because it's very important for us that what part of dance, when I'm talking about something about the gratitude, how I'm expressing my gratitude, you are showing my feet. Or my showing my dancers, hair and the flowers, it doesn't make sense. So when a classical dance choreographer is involving herself in film and film choreography, we have to have good knowledge about camera, positioning of the camera and the shots taking and the frame by frame, and we have to be in the editing table also.
Thank you, Harunappa. Thank you, Ileana. It's always a pleasure to talk to both of you. So finally, just I want to talk a little bit about the choreography of both of them. One, Arunappa has gone through 3 major disasters. One is 1866 Naanka Durvikya. In one of our choreographies, he brought that. Super cyclone and COVID. So addressing human disaster from a classical point of view is very important in her choreography. And Ileana, the same way, though she is a classical dancer, but her approach is very philosophical, very existential, and she addressed, even in her recent Mother Teresa, refugee, Mahanadi, all these are contemporary themes and contemporary sensibilities. It's not that classical dance is all about talking mythological characters only. It's addressing the time, it addressing the crisis of this earth. And it's basically the language of humanity which alters itself and which try to relate itself to the modern time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Appa. Thank you, Ileana. And thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. I think we should not go for questions because it's already 2 and everybody is hungry. Okay, we can take 1 or 2 questions. 1 questions at least. Any questions? Oh, Kapil, yes.
So I have a question from both of you. If we just talk about today's, Indian cinema, and if we compare it, around 90s, how do you see the change? Because the music is always a heart of, good film or cinema. And if we just talk about 90s cinema, there was we can see in a music or dance, the classical, that, the shadow of dances or our art. But nowadays, how do you see that? Because there are lots of liking for Western and other kind of things. So do you feel that lots of things that we have lost in that, or the fusion kind of things has overlapped or suppressed that our that kind of cinema, music, or dance?
You are talking about the music or dance?
Music, dance, both.
They
Because
are
you have did a choreography, so
yeah, there's two different things, especially when you are talking about the films. Music is always driven by that particular era's preferences. Suppose you were talking about, when Hari Prasad Chaurasia and Shiv Kumar Sharma, they did music for the films, as well as at the same time, Lakshmikant Parallelji was there, and after that also Shankar Laishan was there. In Shankar Laishan, Shankar is a classical trained musician. So you see there is a beautiful kind of combination and permutations of the classical medium, and then a fusion happened. Ravi Shankar with George Harrison did fusion. So fusion is a beautiful concept if you are sure about your own medium thoroughly, then you can do justice to the fusion. Just putting two together is not fusion. So that is what happened. But in films and in classical medium, we are restricted by our own regional music system, musicality, and we want to preserve it so that this music tradition will live. It is kind of a ongoing this thing. We do not want it to extend by kind of diluting it with different fusions, each like Karnataki music for Bharatanatyam and Hindustani music for Kathak, Odissi music for Odissi, Mohiniyattam, and other forms. But in film it is not restricted to any medium, any classification, or any genre of music. They are free to use anything. But the musicians who have, kind of classical background, they have given beautiful kind of rendition of the same, like going with the theme with lot of classical. Like you see Devdas, where Birju Maharaji worked. Since Birju Maharaji worked with Kathak, the music is oriented and woven around it. Similarly, each, like my father produced a movie called Sri Krishna Rasleela. It was the first musical film with 36 songs. So it was woven around Odissi music. So that was that. But now when we are talking about music, music has gone global actually. We are touched by the global music. So if I'm not doing Odissi per se and Margam Odissi, then I am experimenting with music too.
Okay, coming to the conclusion, and I just want to add another line. When Satyajit Ray was making Jalsaghar, he used all original musicians in that film, and the classical dancers and classical musicians of that time, starting from Bismillah Khan to Rosnara Begum, and
Even in Kamsutra, Mira Nair had taken musicians from Odisha, the Mardalam players, to use that music in the
yeah, and you talked about your father, and there in Sri Krishna Rasalila, it was Kelu Babu and it was Balakrishna Das, Bhuvaneswar Mishra. So, it was a wonderful combination always. The film was all about the inclusive presentation of classical, local, and folk music. So, thank you very much, Kapil, for asking this question. We will ask during lunch. We will talk during lunch. Yeah.
On behalf of KLF team, I would like to thank Aruna ma'am, Kedar Mishra sir, and Ileana ma'am for hosting such a great session. A huge round of applause for our panelists. The deep concept, the discussion, I think audiences must have had a great time right now. So we are starting up as time, we are running late also, and time is short. We will be starting up with the next session as already